Hi everyone and welcome to this week's YouTube video. My name is Tara and today I'm going to be talking about something a little different. I'm going to be talking about the fact that my husband playing a lot of video games doesn't bother me, even though a lot of people seem to think that it really should. Now, I wrote a blog post about this a long while back and things have changed obviously. We've since had a baby, so my opinions on some of these things have changed just a bit, but I still want to share mostly what I said in the blog post, add a little bit to it, and kind of give you my point of view as someone who is married to a person who could probably play video games for 24 hours a day. So questions I get a lot are, does he really play video games all day? How do you put up with it? How do you put up with him playing video games all the time? And to be honest, I don't really fully understand these questions because a lot of the people who ask me these questions are often people who are married to someone who will spend the same amount of time that my husband spends playing video games doing something else, like watching TV or reading a book, which are also activities that one does kind of alone without really socializing with you. So when people ask me these questions, what I like to ask them back is, if he were watching TV that amount of time, or if he were reading a book for that amount of time, would he be asking me this question? And I often get people saying, well, that's different. And yeah, you're right, that is very different. Because instead of watching TV, which is just staring at a TV screen, not really putting too much thought into anything and just watching a story. Whereas playing video games, your brain is a lot more engaged. So you're doing more brain exercising, brain activity, you're working on your reaction speed. Basically, playing a video game forces the user to use their brain a significantly larger amount than someone who is just watching TV. So with all of that being said, I'm going to list out a few benefits of playing video games that some people don't realize, and they're benefits that you cannot get from watching TV or reading a book, which are things that people say are different and acceptable. So people who play video games regularly are typically better and faster at making decisions. This is because while playing video games, things are happening really quickly and you have to learn to adapt and you have to decide what you're going to do in the game at a quick pace to avoid losing. In one study, players who played fast-paced video games were 25% better at reacting to questions about an image than non-players. Also, I want to point out, in my blog, I mention a lot of these benefits and I mention studies. The sources will be in the blog post, which I will be linking below. So if you're interested in looking up any of these sources, they are available for you. The second benefit is stress reduction. Now, this won't necessarily work in some cases because some video games can be really stressful. I know whenever my husband is having a hard time beating a level or something, he can get a little worked up, and I'm sure anyone who knows someone who plays video games, or if you are someone who plays video games, you get where I'm coming from with this. And also if you're watching, or playing rather, a horror-based video game, which can be fun, I don't think it's necessarily stress relieving because you're pretty on edge, but that is its own entertainment value right there. That being said, when you are playing a game and you're enjoying yourself, your brain is active, but you're enjoying yourself and you're kind of distracted from thinking about things that are stressing you out for your day, because you really can't be thinking about what happened yesterday while you're trying to focus on a video game, because you need to focus so that you don't lose. Meanwhile, when you're watching TV, it's very easy to drift off and stop paying attention to the TV show because the TV show is still going to keep going on. It's not going to stop if you stop paying attention to it, whereas a video game, that will happen. So you are forced to pay attention, and with TV, you're not. So it's very easy to think about the things that are stressing you out while you're watching TV. And for me too, with books, I'm the same way. Personally, I have a really hard time with reading. I'm more of a visual person, so I prefer watching a show over a book because it's very easy for me to get distracted, especially with my own thoughts while I'm trying to read. There was actually a study that was done that tracked players for 6 months. And what they did was measure the players' heart rates, and they found that certain games actually reduced adrenaline by 50%. So stress relief is a very big benefit to video games, which is something I think a lot of people could use right now, but you have to pick the right games. Now another benefit, and this is one thing I love for my husband and for my family, video games can slow the process of aging on the brain, not on your skin. You're still going to get wrinkles, but in the brain it can slow the process of aging. This is because video games involve a lot of memory, puzzle components, and just quick thinking and strategy. And these things are really beneficial in keeping your brain really sharp and on point, and it just keeps you from aging your brain a lot faster because it is active. Just like your body, your muscles, you need to work out your brain. And they've actually seen that older people who play video games on a regular basis will see increased cognitive function that lasts for years. So even if you're older, try video games, you never know. And on the subject of being active, some video games are now adding an active component, such as the Wii Fit. There's a lot of different video games that involve motion. My husband has a VR headset with these two thingies and you have to move them to make things happen in the game. And they're great because they get people moving while they're also playing a video game. And that is definitely not something you can get from a book or watching TV unless you're, say, on a treadmill while doing those things. That being said, if you read books while on a treadmill, tell me your secrets, because I just don't know how that can happen. I do get watching TV on a treadmill, but I don't know. How do people read while walking on a treadmill? I don't get it. Now, one thing that I hear people say all the time is that video games are for nerds, and they're for people who don't make friends, and that was the typical stigma around it back in the day. Now, while there are a lot of people who suffer from social anxiety, people who don't have a lot of friends, who do love playing video games, that doesn't mean that is the case for everyone. In fact, there are a lot of video games that involve coordinating with other people, multiplayer video games, and these really help people build communication skills and are a great way to help you get used to talking to people you maybe have never met, or get you used to coordinating with people and with your friends as well. For instance, my husband, a lot of the games he'll play, he plays with friends. He has his headset on, his microphone, and they'll basically be chatting, having a conversation as if they're hanging out, but they're also at the same time focusing on a game. They're strategizing, and it really does help the communication skills to make sure your teammates know what you're doing, when you're doing it, so that you can all coordinate and build up a strategy that helps you win. And he does win a fair bit, I guess. I don't know. And also my husband has met a lot of people through playing video games that he's never met in person. He'll play the same games with them and he gets to know them, and it's kind of cool how you have these friends that are pretty much just your video game friends, but you hear so many stories about people who become really good lifelong friends with these people that you met through a video game. They eventually do meet, and it's just a great way to meet other people that is not a conventional, traditional way to meet people. So multiplayer games have become very popular lately, and it's actually been shown that 70% of video game playing is done with friends. So again, video games are not for someone who is lonely. They're pretty much the opposite. I think my husband talks with his friends a lot more than I do because of these video games, to be quite honest. And especially during the pandemic right now, I think it's a great way to stay connected with your friends. There are some genres of games that can actually help people within their career as well. Games that encourage leadership will often help a person develop leadership traits that transfer into their real life. And this is something I see in my husband, especially as he has been promoted recently to a leadership role. And I see this when he plays his video games. He often will take a leadership role. And I just think he's become a really great leader because of these games, and I think that very much helped him become a leadership role at work. Also, video games have you improvising quite often, quite rapidly, and that is something that is great if you're good at, because crises at work happen all the time. And with my husband working from home a lot, I see this happen a lot. Almost daily. It's kind of ridiculous. Everything will be fine, then all of a sudden he's like, I'm dealing with an emergency, and I'm like, okay, there's always an emergency. I don't know why you even call them emergencies. Side rant, sorry. But I think having these video games, knowing how to quickly adapt when things change, has been really beneficial for him and for many others as well. So another thing people often say to me, and I mentioned this in the blog as well, is, what if he turns your kids into gamers? And I'm just like, maybe he will, maybe he won't. Maybe our kids will like fashion like me, maybe they won't. Our kids are gonna like whatever they like, and that is fine because they're their own people. That being said, my daughter's favorite toy right now is this one. And no, my husband actually didn't buy this for her. But I'm fine with that because I don't care what my kids get into as long as they're happy. And there's actually a lot of benefits to video games for children that a lot of people don't realize, because people are so focused on the negative issues, which aren't even real issues. Most of these things that people come up with, that video games cause violence, they cause this, that, and the other. First of all, children should be playing age-appropriate games. They should be playing games that are suited to their age, that they can understand the difference between fact and fiction, and the difference between this is just a game versus this is something that you should do. Grand Theft Auto 5, or whatever number they're on, is not a game my daughter's going to be playing at all anytime soon. Not until she's old enough to understand that this is something that you don't do in real life. And I think a lot of parents want to just pass the blame instead of realizing they didn't teach their children this. You need to know what your children are looking at, spending time doing, and make sure that you prepare them for the real world, and make sure you teach them what is appropriate and not appropriate, and what these video games mean, and how they should behave, and what you can take from a video game and not take from a video game. Yeah, I'm getting worked up about this. I hate people blaming video games for their kids doing something really stupid, when really, I'm sorry, parents, you have to teach your kids not to do stupid things. That's on you. If you let them play a video game, you need to also explain to them that this is just a game. So, benefits for children, there are quite a few. And one of them is that they do get children moving. Now, it's funny because back when I was a kid, and before that, it was always, get inside, kids, stop being outside running around all the time, spend some time inside. And then it shifted to parents trying to get their kids to go outside because all they wanted to do was play video games, watch TV, go on the computer, and MSN with their friends. I'm aging myself real bad right now. But it's true. Now they also want to sit inside and play on their cell phones, on their tablets. And yeah, I get that, wanting kids to get moving. So what a lot of video games have done is adapt to that, and as I mentioned before, video games can help get you moving. And there's a lot of video games that are geared towards children that will help get them moving and get them really interested in doing some of these activities in real life. For instance, if your child plays a sports game, even if it's not one that has them physically moving, it might actually inspire them to try the sport themselves. If your child is playing a soccer game, they might say, I want to do this in real life, see what happens, or see if I enjoy it. It looks so much fun on the screen. So giving your child the choice to play video games is also a great way to teach them how to manage their time, because they can learn very early on that you can get really sucked into a game, and you can help them learn to manage their time around playing video games to make sure that they're able to have their fun and able to get the things done that they need to do, such as chores or their homework. And preventing your child from playing a video game because you don't want them to spend too much time on it kind of gives them the message that you don't trust them to make their own decisions, and you want to set your children up for success and allow them to take ownership of their time and ownership of their own decisions. And if they're able to make decisions at a younger age, they're going to be better at it when they're older. Now this one is weird, but an appreciation for history. Who knew, right? But there are a lot of games that are very set on being historically accurate, and they use real historical events that they base their stories that your child will play through on, which can in turn make a child very interested in that event, especially if they find out that it actually happened, and they might be interested in learning about it a little more. So with all of those things in mind, yes, I am fine if my daughter and any possible future children we have are interested in video games. Just like they can be interested in any other thing they want to be interested in, as long as it is a good activity that is legal and not harmful to anyone. They can do what they want as long as they're happy. So the last thing I get asked a lot is, what about you? And I'm just like, what about me? You know? I'm fine with him playing video games as long as he's not spending too much time doing it. And people will often ask me, well, what about you? Don't you want him to spend more time with you? And my answer is, well, no, not really. And I'm not saying that because I don't want to spend time with my husband. I'm saying that because we both have interests that the other person doesn't have. And while he's playing his video games, I can do something I like to do independently as well, because we're both independent people. That being said, a lot of times when he is playing video games, we are spending time together. I'm often sitting on the couch next to him while he's playing video games, and I'll chat with him a bit while he's playing something. If he's doing something really intense, maybe I won't. And quite often I'll pay attention to what he's doing, and I'll make comments about the video games. Often I will tease him a little bit because I am just that kind of person. And it's honestly something that I don't mind watching him do, and we can spend time together while he's doing it, but at the same time, I have so many things I'd rather be doing, and I'd rather do alone, and I go do them at those times. Not to mention, if there is ever a time where I feel like I need his attention, I can say to him, hey, I need your attention right now, please stop playing video games. And it's been a bit of an adjustment for us as we both navigate new parenthood and dividing up the tasks and dividing up just being able to spend time with our daughter so that I'm not overloaded during what is supposed to be downtime for both of us. Now, obviously, just like with many other things, there are downsides to video games and there are problems. One being that video games can be addicting. That is something that happens with some people. It doesn't happen with everyone. It's typically someone who is predisposed to be addicted to things. I'm not saying that video games are perfect. I'm not saying you should play video games, especially if you think you would get addicted to them. It is true that addiction isn't just substances that you can ingest in the body. So I didn't want to just pretend that wasn't an issue. It's definitely something I wanted to bring up. And I understand that that can be an issue for a lot of people. In my case and my husband's case, it is not, because he is able to put down a video game and go to bed if he needs to sleep, where some people will literally just play all night and not get the rest that they need. He's able to put it down when he knows I need help with Cassidy. So all of these things are great for him, and I have absolutely no problem with him playing video games. So if you're one of the people who have been asking me or other people who are in relationships with someone who is a video gamer, and you see your spouse watching TV or reading a book, just remember that my spouse is also finding entertainment in a mostly seated position, but he's also doing a lot of self-improvement at the same time. So don't be so smug about it. Just saying. Anyway guys, that was my little rant and explanation about why I have no problem with video games. And while it sometimes annoys me when he's playing video games for a long time, I'm an adult and so is my husband, and I can just tell him, stop it. So there's nothing wrong with a person who plays video games. I think video games can be very beneficial, and even as someone who is not interested in video games myself, that doesn't mean that I have any reason to say other people should not enjoy them, because if you don't find enjoyment in something, that doesn't mean there's not other people who find it enjoyable, and it's not your place to tell someone that they shouldn't enjoy something that you don't enjoy. Anyway, that was my video for today. I hope you all enjoyed it and got to understand a little bit about where I'm coming from and where people who play video games are coming from. Alright, I'll see you guys next week. Bye!